G'day folks, Alex McKellar here. We're at Nurb GP this week for round 9, I think, season 24, 2021, season 4. That's where we're at. Been a while since I've done some official racing, and we talked on the podcast about maybe talking through some races. And I thought this week would be as good a week as any to start. So 12 laps around here. It was Saturday night. Only just over 20 people signed up, which really surprised me because it's a good track in the skips. But it also meant we only had 11 drivers in the top split. So I qualified second. I bombed my second lap, which didn't cost me too much in the context, really. Starting on the front row is good enough here. Great to see Josh Fidge-Johnson, Big Ideas Andy on Twitch in the race. Haven't seen him in skips for a long time. He's been off doing other things. But good to see him out there, and he was pretty happy to be there, I think. Henry Morse put it on pole. Haven't raced with Henry before, so I'll be interested to see how we go with him. And Jeff Decker's the other one to watch in this field that I know of, at least. He's a good US driver. I rating's a bit over 5K, so he's got a bit of skill and pace about him as well, and I've raced with him before, and he's good to race with. So I was looking forward to this one. Speaking of which, why don't we get underway? So 12 laps, as we said, on the inside in P2, which is interesting, of course. But I guess we'll see how we go with that. So I got a good jump here. And I wasn't necessarily too fussed with passing the Barney Mobile there on my left, but, you know, P2 off the grid, you got the inside run and a good start. So I took the opportunity and went through. Morse immediately popped in behind, which natural, I guess, at the start of the race. But he's real tight on me, 2/10 through here. And already I'm seeing him fill my mirrors. But I figure, again, it's the start of the race. Probably not much in it yet. Important to get a good, clean start. So much happens at the start of a race in terms of jostling for position, and you know, it's just so easy to end your race at the start. So I was pretty pleased with how we got away, and the race has started off well. You see Decker's already up 4 positions. I think he chose not to qualify and just have a bit of a race, up 5 now in the space of as bad as many corners. And already you can see Morse is sticking between 1 and 3/10 on my tail and already filling my mirrors. And I haven't raced with him to this point, so it's already starting to make me think, which I imagine was his strategy, or part of his strategy, right? Because he was 3/10 ahead of me in quali. I didn't do my second lap, admittedly, but you know, you just don't know who's quicker at this point because we haven't raced together. I haven't done a lot of official racing, so my goal out of this one and my racing at the moment is to get the feel back into it, or get the feel back for it. Now, you see I lift and let Morse through there. He had the run on me for a start, but also not having raced with Morse before, I was okay with letting him through and seeing how the race developed, rather than battling with him straight up early on and increasing my risk. There's too many risks for me in that because I don't know him. If it was someone that I raced with regularly, I might have, you know, kept going, but for now it's a learning exercise. Decker already up in 4th, 1 lap, 6 positions, and he's on the back of the front pack. So maybe if he was out for a good time, it was only a short time. So here straight away a Morse makes a mistake and I go through. So I'm starting to wonder about Henry, Mr. Morse, about his pace and his racing. Could just be cold tyres, could be a sign of someone who's confident in the draft but not confident to lead. So I'm storing that one away in the memory banks by here. So we've done a lot of league racing recently in the Aussie Car League. Haven't done a lot of officials, so what I'm really trying to do here is work on my racecraft in the official series context, because it's very different racing in officials versus league racing. racing with the same guys week in, week out. Typically on the Australian server for us, which affects the latency and the net code typically. Whereas here in officials, you race people from all over the world, so you've got to have some different things in mind. And again, there's a bunch of faces that I don't know, and this is only 2 drivers in this field that I know and have raced with any sort of semblance of regularity. And that really does change my mindset on things. So you can see the front 4 have got away, which is myself, Morse, Decker now up into 3rd ahead of Ogihara. So I came into this race as a learning exercise, as I said, getting back into officials. So my goal here was to get a podium. And at this stage of the race, I'm thinking I've only got to beat 1 in the front 4. So I'm pretty happy so far at the end of lap 2. So my goal, as I said, is a podium. Anything more than that is obviously a bonus. In this sort of race, look, it's nearly 2,500 strength of field, but with each position that you fall down the order, the gaps are really big in terms of I rating and official series points and what have you. So by the time I hit about 3rd in this race, in terms of results, I'm lucky if I'm breaking even in terms of I rating, and the points are no good. Points aren't great for winning this either, but you know, the biggest thing here I'm doing is trying to learn. So again, you can see Morse is all over the back of me, really quite tight. I assumed he's racing in VR. It's only since I've been racing in VR that I can follow this closely with any sort of degree of comfort, but you know, I don't know that. I don't know more. So again, he's filling my mirrors, and that's a legitimate strategy too, to unsettle people, and it's certainly, I'm aware of him if nothing else, and it's already starting to shape the way I think about completing the rest of the race. And you can see Decker now closing in on the back of the Barney Mobile behind me. And I've raced with Jeffrey Decker a few times, and like I said, he's got good pace. I think he's about 5,100 I rating or something like that. Oh yeah, you can see it down in the overlays at the bottom. And yeah, he's pretty handy. And again, you see how tight under braking Morse goes, and that worries me a bit. So he's already in my head a little bit. And like I said, I'm starting to think about how I want to run this. So we come up into the hill, into this very fun section, this chicane. It's a long chicane, if you call it that, at the top of the hill. But I've been struggling here for some reason. Oh, as you see Decker in the mirrors, he's made a move up the inside of Morse there. Morse has given him good racing room. Now they're 2 Americans, and I don't know if they've raced together or not, but already we're seeing signs that Morse is thinking about his race, because not only has he been applying the pressure to me, but as soon as he saw Decker coming and he had earned the corner, he really made the right kind of space, not to cost too much time, but to get the move done. Now I'm already thinking here that Decker's going to have a crack at me in the next straight, the start-finish straight, and I'm going to let him go if he does, with a view to trying to thin out the herd in this front group. There's 4 drivers here. As I said, my goal is to finish on the podium. And to do that, like I said, I've got to beat one of these guys. And from there, if I can do any better, great. So you'll see what I typically do in this situation is he's got the corner, he's got the move done, so I've lifted a little bit early to let him go. I was hoping he'd come across and take the natural racing line. But you can see he did a pretty good job there, actually, of holding some good speed on a compromised narrow entry to turn 1. I wanted to let him through there without necessarily giving Morse too much of a sniff. See there, Decker makes quite a big mistake there, missed the apex by a long way, cost him a lot of speed. I had to lift to let him back into line. So my hopes of he and I potentially getting away from the other 2 were dashed pretty quickly, and suddenly I've got Morse filling my mirrors again in the purple Barney Mobile. So my ideas of thinning out the herd so far aren't going so well. Ogihara's still on the back as well. And I'm starting to think about how we can change that a bit potentially. It was interesting to see Decker make that mistake at turn 3. It's those sort of things that I like to watch in a race to see we're potentially either in this race or down the track in another opportunity that I might be able to take advantage. So yeah, remaining observant in races like this can be really advantageous. See how close in my mirrors, and that forces a big mistake. Look at that. I'm caught between watching Decker and watching Morse behind me, and I dead set nearly punted Decker there, so I'm already thinking, oh, alright, we need to change something about this. Smart move there from Morse. He had the run. He'd forced me into a mistake. He had the run, but he chose not to overtake down this back straight into the final chicane. And I thought to myself, well, you know, he's got some race sense about him, because if he has that move, even if I facilitate it there to minimise the damage of time loss and letting him by, we both potentially lose Decker and he's gone. I suspect that Decker probably had the pace in this field, all things being equal. So smart decision from Morse there. And he's showing himself to be pretty canny, honestly. He filling the mirrors of the driver in front is a legitimate tactic to try and force a mistake. See under brakes there, and again Decker's missed the apex by a fair way there at turn 1. So he's got a lot of speed. I'm just wondering, yeah, I don't know, maybe he's enjoyed the race through the field, and then but has made a couple of mistakes along the way, so maybe there's more of that in his game later on that I can take advantage of. So we've almost cracked the draft in all of this for Ogihara, the guy in P4. So I'm starting to feel comfortable here that we're going to get a breakaway of 3 and that podium's more secured. So that opens up a few different strategies for me here around, you know, getting flag to flag the fastest whilst maximising our chance to secure that podium, but also anything better we can grab along the way. So yeah, at 1.1 seconds, nearly 1.2, Ogihara's pretty much out of this race with Decker on the front. With Decker on the front of this pack being what I think is the fastest driver in the field, he'll pull us away. You can see we gained a tenth and a half on that, even on that straight section there. But again, a little mistake from me there. And I'm dividing my time between looking forward and looking back, which is not what I like to be doing at this point. So you see here, look, I just pulled over, lifted a bit, and I let Morse through. At this stage of the race, with the draft essentially broken to P4, I've made the decision that I'd rather Morse be Decker's problem than mine, if I'm honest. I'm content to sit back here comfortably in the draft and study my opponents for the just over the second half of the race. So the purple Barney-mobile has gone through to P2, and I've wished him well on his way. And now I'm going to see how these two interact and see what opportunities I can either take advantage of or make for myself in the second half of the race. That time, both Decker and Morse take a relatively tidy line through turn 1, which is good. And I did wonder if these two have raced together before. Another whoopsie though from Decker at turn 3. And again, these are the things you store away. You know, are they cold tire mistakes? Although now, realistically, we're on lap 6. So that's not so much of an excuse. Has he raced a lot with Morse before? And again, look at him, he's taking a wide angle on exit there through this section of the track as well. I don't know whether he's being deliberately untidy, whether he's taking lines to put Morse off, whether these guys have raced together a lot and maybe they're good mates, I don't know. They did have a little chat after the race, but only the usual pleasantries of, you know, good race and all that. So yeah, I'm not sure. But these are the things that I'm thinking about. And I've got the ability to do that in this position because I'm comfortably in the draft. I don't fear getting dropped. And I can start watching for those things. You see I'm lifting out quite early, trying to get this section right because I have struggled here. I don't know why this season. I really like this track. That section's normally okay. I've just really had trouble spotting my references there accurately and getting the braking right. And that's often cost me time, you know, just through braking too early and indeed braking too late and making mistakes. And I see Morse is pretty content to follow. It was interesting. The one time that I saw him lead in front of me, he made, you know, a couple of one significant mistake and just let me through, and then was happy to really just apply that blowtorch from behind. So it looks to me like he's doing the same thing with Decker here. Now Ogihara, he's gone. As we said, he's now a bit over 2 seconds behind and out of this race. So I'm content to just sit back here and observe. Morse now makes the move into one. Decker leaves him plenty of room, good amount of room there without compromising speed too much. This is really interesting. Morse lets Decker back through. And I was starting to think, what's his game? You know, is he disrupting? Is he doing a dress rehearsal maybe? And you see he's missed the apex there at turn 3. And Decker's taken what looks to be the 1X on exit at turn 4. So, you know, caught between, they're trying and they're just playing a bit of ducks and drakes at this stage is what I'm thinking. I'm glad this track's been on the rotation. It's taken us a long time to get there. This is its 3rd season, of course, in the official schedule, so we won't see it again for a little while. It's assuming now that the great Philippe Labert has moved on from Skips that we keep the same system. I think the system of choosing tracks has been really good. Now, I don't always agree with the tracks that get chosen, but there again, it's, you know, more or less by public vote. And, you know, there's usually enough good tracks on the season to keep us all interested anyway. Again, you can see I got caught out there. Now, I was starting to wonder if it was me, although you could see there I braked well before there's a white line that goes across the track, just really denotes where you absolutely want to be on the brakes just before it. And I had lifted and braked well before that, so I just wonder if either I'm carrying more speed through there or, I don't know, it cost me speed on exit or what, but I'm just not getting it right. Hence, at this stage, I'm kind of conflicted because I'm in this race, as I'm in officials at the moment, to, you know, get my legs under me with regards to racecraft and racing with other folks, but at the same time, I don't want to be a danger to myself and others. So certainly in the context of this race now with a 2.5, we're getting about half a second a lap almost on Ogihara behind. I'm happy to just sit and bide my time with this one. We're now on lap 8 of 12, so 5 to go. I'm happy to bide my time and see what I can learn about my opponents in front to take advantage of later in the race. And it's all about, for me, managing my risk. So if I'm happy with 3rd, and then what I can get on top of that, the risk for me in attacking here to either unsettle and force a mistake on my rival, or get past and potentially drive away, which I don't think I can do in this case. So I think Decker's probably got my number, if not a bit better on pace here, because he's done a lot more racing than me here, that's for sure. On balance in terms of risk versus reward, I'm content to stay here and watch and learn for opportunities later in the race. You know, another factor, as I've said, playing on my mind is that I haven't raced with Morse before, and he's clearly shown that he's a bit of a thinker in the cockpit. He's happy to put pressure on the driver in front, but also smart enough not to cost too much time in that process in the context of this race. And in the context of this race, he can be applying all sorts of pressure because, you know, we're out to over a 3-second lead. And you see, look at this. Look at the line Decker takes. He's right over to the left. I tend to come in at that apex on the straight funny thing saying, isn't it? Apex on a straight a lot earlier, but he stays wide, and I wondered if that was just to get the thought, oh, big mistake there. And I'm starting to worry, or wonder rather than worry, if the Barney Mobile's starting to get to Decker as well. Because look, he's missed that apex as well. So, you know, maybe Morse's strategy's working on Decker as much as it did on me early on. So, interesting. Oh, and again, look at him filling the mirrors. That is a 10th at best behind Decker into the braking zone at turn 1. That is unsettling. But Decker did well there. Made a good turn 1. At this point, I do feel like I'm commentating their race as much as I am mine. But it's these little details that I see in a race that I really enjoy. I really enjoy the strategy of racing in this kind of race. Yeah, I'm working on a later apex through that corner. The two in front do it. I tend to crab that corner a little bit, something I'm working on at the moment. Similarly down here with this hairpin. You see I've taken a tighter line through there, and look at that nice late apex from Morse there. Something I've been working on in practice for this. I've done a couple of practice sessions before I did this race, including a time trial, which I think are a good form of practice, but they don't give you this kind of stuff where you're strategically thinking about your race. Look at that, stay in the center of the track this time before moving over was Decker. Yeah, you don't get the strategic thinking required or the practice at it when it comes to time trials. They'll help you with your speed and comparing yourself against others, but certainly not the race and racecraft experience. So again, look at that, tight on his tail, 1/10 at best into the braking zone. That is quite unsettling in the context of a race like this, because there's no need to be that close other than to put pressure on the driver in front, because you're nervous if that guy behind you misses his marker in any way, shape or form, you're off into the kitty litter, so to speak. So now I'm sure Decker's thinking about it. Doing low 18s now, which is fairly tidy, as Morse makes a move into turn 1. Got 3 laps to go now, so time to start thinking about anteing up for those guys, and certainly myself, starting to think about using what I've learned and applying it in the last couple of laps of this race. Now what's really interesting is look how close Decker is straight away on the back of Morse. Do you reckon Morse has got in his head so much that he's just all of a sudden, well, 2 can play at this game, mate, given half an opportunity? In his mirrors, look at him in his mirrors, moving out to the inside, showing the nose. And if I'm Morse, I'm thinking I've won somewhat of a moral victory at that point in the battle of the minds, because straight away Decker's done a bit of tit for tat straight in his mirrors. And again, I'm watching this from my cockpit thinking, yeah, interesting to see the mind games that go on in the midst of a race like this. Up the hill we go again. Surprising the draft you get up this hill. Very surprising. As we see, centre, but not enough. Morse looking to half defend. Decker going up the inside. He's made this move before. Oh, and Morse backed right out of it. I wasn't expecting that. You can see the big Barney on the side of his car. And I got the spotter's call there. Caught me out a bit. I don't think I braked too late. It was just that I wasn't expecting Morse to back out so strongly to let Decker through. Again, he conceded that corner. But here we go. Dress rehearsal time. What are they going to do? Side by side. This was the key moment for me in watching what these guys do. Very slow. You see I take the racing line. Look at the run I get on them. Bang. And I back out. That for me was a really encouraging sign, because they both showed that they could battle. Decker was on the outside there, looking to perhaps defend and Morse attack up the inside. But for me, what I saw there was that if they did that, in that scenario, if I take the racing line, I get the run up the inside, get the run up the inside out of the second last corner and potentially have a crack at the win. So that was a big moment for me. Very big learning exercise in the strategy of the final 2 laps of this race. Interesting there, again, Morse lets Decker through. They contested gently, I would say, the final, or the first corner, I should say, and then Morse conceded it. Decker once again slightly off the apex there, costing him a little bit of speed, and Morse all over the back of him, applying pressure. So again, at this stage, I'm thinking with 2 laps to go, I actually thought this was the last lap. So I was thinking about moving up a bit closer to start applying some of my own pressure. You can see I close up through this corner a little bit. About halfway through the lap, I realised it's not the last lap. I figured with the move they made into the chicane last lap that this was it. But then I got a bit excited and then realised that it wasn't and backed off. So it was all good. And so once I've realised that we're not fighting for sheep stations quite yet, I was wondering if we were going to get another dress rehearsal this time round, and what I could learn from it to take advantage of in that last lap roll of the dice. You can see again, this time I learnt and I didn't nearly take out Decker, who came across a lot earlier than Morse did, but is already putting the pressure on through the exit. So Morse's run was compromised through there. Decker all over the back of him and ready to attack into the final chicane. Another dress rehearsal. This time the roles are reversed. Decker on the inside, Morse on the outside, and me still watching and waiting. Morse really conceded that, interestingly. So not the same outcome. I wouldn't have had the opportunity to go through there. But again, Morse did ultimately strike me as quite a smart racer there. No point in contesting that so much because it was the second to last lap. On the last lap, I imagine it could be different. Speaking of last laps, here we go. As my partner in crime on a Sunday night says, time to win it or wear it. And Morse up the inside of turn 1 again. Decker almost over-rotates the car there under braking. Morse seeds at turn 2 once again. Bit common place to see that now almost. How's Decker going to be through here on the final lap? Much better. Makes both apexes. Although there's a bit more to be had on both, if I'm honest. And so my strategy here is still minimise my risk. I'm happy with third. I'd be happier with something better. Let's see what I can take advantage of in the final chicane. I think these two are too smart at this stage to come a cropper before then. So it's really down to that key moment. Decker makes a big blue there. Side by side up the hill rather than between. Really surprised to see Decker outbrake himself there. And I don't know if it was pressure of the situation or the Barney mobile behind him, but again, Moore shows his intelligence and his racecraft, lets him back in to set him up for the final chicane. And here we go. Although here, I'm sitting here going, he's 3/10 off, 4/10 off on the exit of that corner. Has he left his run too late? And I thought my roll of the dice wasn't going to pay off here because he was too far back to actually have a crack. And you can see here, Decker wants the inside, or shows the inside. Quick move from Morse to the outside, then shows and fakes it. Decker gets locked up. McKellar takes the line, rolls the dice. It's so far coming up double sixes, but I'm worried because Morse is on the outside. He'll have better exit of the final corner here. He's tucked in behind, and I don't want to give him the draft, so I keep a tight exit and move right over to the right. He's coming, 0.01. McKellar gets it. 0.2025 in the end. I was pretty happy with that. can I say, it's not always going to happen, but when it does, it's very nice. You roll that dice at the end and it's, you play your cards right and it comes up your way. It's a nice feeling, actually. So I was pretty happy with that. But let's go take a look at that final little series of corners there and see what took place. I'm going to grab a far chase if I can spot it in amongst that very small text. Oh, I'm going to guess. Yeah, all right. Okay. So this is what it boils down to. You got Decker in front. The exit of this previous corner, I really thought Morse had blown it. You can see there's quite a considerable gap between he and Decker in front. Using every bit of the track and more, as they say. As we come down towards that all-important moment of the race, you can see Decker, he flows out, and I'm wondering if he thinks he's defended the corner there, because you see more shape to the right, and then he moves to the left. But what you see here is Morse is he's almost got a right angle corner to make, right? The fastest way through this corner is to open out to the right-hand side of the track to stop it being a right angle corner. Really open up the angle on the corner to carry the most speed. Here, he is dead set on a right angle, and he's going to struggle to make that corner with any speed. If you look where I am, this is kind of where you want to position yourself to go fastest through the corner. So this is what I've been thinking during the race, that if the two cars in front of me are battling like that, if I take the natural line through the corner, I'm going to have the most speed on exit. To do that, I've got to leave myself a bit of a gap. You can see I've left a bit of a gap in front of me so I can take advantage of that speed without having to check up. I'm relying on them not making the corner as fast as that you would otherwise, and also that there'll be a gap on the inside of the exit of the second apex. So it'll be a slightly compromised exit for me on the second corner of the apex, but I should be carrying a lot more speed, was the plan going into it. And you can see both of them really compromised. Jeff didn't open up the corner even. He didn't have time before he had to get on the brakes, because you need to be braking in a straight line, and you can see he is, but he has left it too late and locked up, and that's cost him. Morse so he's rotated through the corner. Morse has also missed the corner because he was on such a tight angle. I've come through on the racing line and have so much more speed that I can afford to compromise a bit on the exit and come up the inside, which was my plan from about 3 laps to go. And you can see I'm compromised on entry here, so I'm worried about exit speed. Thankfully, it's only a short run to the line here, so I move over, trying not to give up side draft. Morse comes over to get it, but the line gets there first. So really happy with that. Like I said, the strategy doesn't always pay off, but when it does, I felt like I was minimizing my risk with maximizing my potential rewards out of that. So yeah, it was a good result. So yeah, if I look at the results there, managed to grab first out of that, just ahead of Henry Morse. 0.019 apparently in the end, but yeah, Ogihara came through for third. Decker just lost too much time in the end and it was pretty tight. In the results though, in terms of I rating and what have you, Decker actually lost I rating. So he was car number 2 in here, just 5100 as we said, and I think he lost about 14 I rating, which is one of the really interesting, I guess, factors in a low participation split. The strength of field is 2500, but if Decker, the difference for Decker between third and fourth is the difference between winning and losing I rating, or at least breaking even and losing I rating. So Having said that, 14 I rating's not a big price to pay for a bit of a fun race. Shame to see Fitz Johnson down there at the bottom. Hopefully we see him on track a bit more. He's got a good bit of pace too. So as Fidge, big ideas, Andy, on Twitch. But speaking of Twitch, make sure you check us out on Top Split TV on Twitch each Sunday night, Australian daylight savings time at the moment. Top Split TV on Twitch each 9:15 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Savings time. We do the Strength of Field Skippy Race of the week. And in fact, after last week at Mid-Ohio, we have the strongest strength of field ever in official skip barber racing, confirmed by iRacing, which is fantastic. It was over 5,500, so hoping to build on that at some point, but pretty stoked with that, and thank everyone again for their support for the series. That'll about do us, folks. Thank you for watching, and until next time, ciao for now.